In this true crime documentary, we uncover the terrifying case of Rachel Morin.
Can you tell us a little bit about where we are right now?
This is where my mom's house used to be. That's now gone. I just think about going upstairs in my mom's room and laying down with her.
How old are you when you'd go up and lay down with her?
All the time. I always wanted to.
That's a sweet memory.
I feel like the person who did this took a lot of experiences away from us. We talked about doing a lot of things together, and she's never going to be able to be at my wedding. I'm never going to be able to go to hers.
Our story today takes us to Harford County, Maryland, a peaceful slice of the East Coast tucked between New York and Washington, D.C. Its largest city, Aberdeen, holds barely 16,000 residents. The county seat, a small town called Bel Air, counts just over 10,000. It's the kind of place where time moves slow. Forests surround quiet trails. Summers burn warm. Autumn carries that crisp kind of air that makes you stop and breathe. Like many towns on the eastern seaboard, its name has European roots. Bel Air literally means beautiful air. And in the heart of this calm, picture-perfect town lived Rachel Morin, a 37-year-old woman whose life seemed full of motion and meaning. Rachel was a fitness enthusiast, a small business owner, and above all, a proud mother of 5. She was born on May 20th, 1986 in Dover, New Hampshire, one of 8 siblings in a lively household. Her parents, Patty and Ronald, raised her alongside her sisters Rebecca and Erin. Family was everything to Rachel. That never changed. Even as an adult, her world remained surrounded by parents, uncles, cousins, and eventually her own children. In 2009, tragedy struck when her father, Ronald, passed away. Instead of falling apart, Rachel did what strong people do. She built something. She started a house cleaning business, a small venture that gave her the freedom to both earn and nurture. She made sure her children got to school, felt loved, and never missed a smile at home. Being part of a big, supportive family helped her balance it all. Rachel was known for her warm, magnetic personality, the kind of person who could light up any room. Friends described her as the life of the party. And while that might sound cliché, those words come straight from the people who loved her. From the obituaries and tributes that still echo her name. Love wasn't a stranger to her either. Her 5 children came from 3 fathers: Joseph Custer, Jonathan Alderson, and Matt McMahon. Those relationships weren't without their challenges, but all 3 men remained active in their children's lives. Then came the summer of 2023. Rachel had started seeing Richard Tobin, a 27-year-old man with a rough past, but a promise of change. Just 4 days before she disappeared, they made their relationship official on Facebook. August 5th, 2023. A Saturday. The kind of warm, golden evening that feels endless in small-town America. Families were grilling outdoors, and locals were heading out to walk the trails before the sunset. Rachel was one of them. She told Richard she was going for a run along the Ma and Pa Heritage Trail, a scenic wooded path beloved by locals. Before that, she planned a quick stop at Target to grab some groceries, drop them off at her car, then start her run from William Street trailhead. It was still early. Around 6 p.m., the sun hung high. The air was calm. Rachel had no reason to think this evening would be any different from the dozens of runs before, but it would be. As the hours passed, something felt wrong. 7 turned to 8, then 9. Still no word from Rachel. By 11 o'clock, she'd been gone for over 5 hours, missing from what should have been a short evening jog. Richard's worry grew unbearable. At 11:23 p.m., he picked up the phone and made a call that would mark the beginning of a nightmare. He reported Rachel Morin missing. The first 24 hours in any missing person case are the most critical. Yet police often take their time when it involves an adult. That's because adults have free will. And when one disappears, it's usually assumed they wanted to. In Rachel Morin's case, there were no clear signs of foul play. From an outside perspective, that might have seemed like a reason to pause. But Richard knew her better than anyone. He knew this was completely out of character. While officers were still taking Richard's statement, Rachel's oldest daughter, Violet, only 18 years old, arrived at the station. She told them that her mom had texted her at 7:04 that evening. She was supposed to call again after finishing her run around 8:30. But she never did. When the officers heard Violet's story, they didn't hesitate. They headed straight to the trail with Richard and Violet beside them. That's when things took a much darker turn. Richard and Violet spotted Rachel's car parked in a small lot beside Independent Brewing Company just a few steps from the William Street entrance to the trail. That detail alone changed everything. Because even if Rachel had chosen to run away, why would she leave her car behind? By the next morning, the search had officially begun. Friends and family organized volunteer teams to help the police. Word spread fast across the town and online. And by daylight, officers and residents were walking side by side, combing every inch of the May and Pa trail. Of course, whenever someone goes missing, there's always that fragile hope they'll be found safe. But sadly, searches like these rarely end that way. On the morning of August 6th, two volunteers, Cecilia and Evan, confirmed the grim truth. Like many others, they joined the search, but instead of staying on the main trail, they decided to cut through the woods, taking narrow deer paths and rarely used side routes. That's when Cecilia saw something. A faint stain tangled in leaves and branches. At first, it was hard to tell what it was, but when she leaned closer, her stomach turned. It was blood. She called Evan, who pushed forward to investigate. Following the traces deeper into the trees, he came upon two narrow tunnels hidden beneath the forest floor. He stepped closer, peered inside, and fell silent. Just a few feet in the darkness lay the naked body of a woman covered in blood lying in shallow water. In that moment, Evan and Cecilia knew exactly what they had found. It was the body of Rachel Morin.
Code 46500 West 83rd Street, employees in the building. X28X2, see the man. That's right. We just received a call from a Cecilia who's advising that she has located the missing subject on the Monpa. Caller is standing by at that location. 1350 dispatch on the route through Monpa trail. 10-4. Reference to Monpa, callers advising that the victim appears to have sustained a head injury. They have been instructed not to touch anything. She's inside the tunnel as soon as you walk in. Alright, you're out.
Within moments, detectives were on scene. They sealed off the area and began their analysis. They noticed bruises on her arms and wrists, clear signs of a struggle. Then came the most horrifying detail of all. They learned that Rachel had been assaulted before she was killed. The tunnel itself told a story. Blood was smeared along the walls, and about 200 feet away, searchers found her cracked iPhone XR beside her AirPods, which she had been wearing during her run. Closer to the main road, hidden in the brush, two officers discovered her Apple Watch. The cause of death was quickly determined. Multiple blunt force injuries and strangulation. Rachel had been hit 15 to 20 times in the head and face. No doubt in any officer's mind, this was murder. The devices she carried told their own timeline. Data from her phone, AirPods, and watch placed the time of death at around 7:09 p.m., just minutes after she'd sent her last text to her daughter. The discovery of Rachel's body shocked everyone. It had been less than 24 hours since she went missing. And though the speed of the discovery gave people hope the killer would be caught just as fast, no one realized this case would become a 10-month-long chase after a ghost. In the beginning, Richard, her boyfriend, was naturally the prime suspect. But nothing about this case was ordinary. Even the way Rachel's body was found was unusual. The man and woman who discovered her hadn't followed the official volunteer search plan. They'd gone off on their own and somehow stumbled onto her remains. That raised red flags. Police couldn't ignore the possibility that maybe they weren't heroes at all. Maybe they were the killers pretending to find the body. Both were tested for DNA, and the results came back negative. They had nothing to do with Rachel's death. In fact, both were experienced in missing person searches. They had volunteered in several rescue operations before. That's why they didn't follow the basic plan. They knew that if Rachel had been killed near the main trail, someone would have found her quickly. The May and Pa trail was busy day and night, filled with joggers and dog walkers. So they chose to start their search in the abandoned areas of the trail. And that's where they found her. While detectives waited for DNA results from the crime scene to be compared with national databases, they turned their attention back to the obvious suspect, the boyfriend, especially after discovering that Richard had a criminal record. That alone was enough to keep suspicion on him. But Richard had a solid alibi and cooperated fully. He was genuinely devastated, and more importantly, his DNA did not match what was found at the scene. Still, investigators appealed to the public, asking anyone who'd seen Richard between 5 and 10 p.m. to come forward. Luckily, several witnesses did. 2 local shop employees confirmed they saw Rachel in the area before she vanished. She was seen entering a Wawa store around 6:30, then leaving Target just after 6:42. Shortly after that, she was spotted parking near the Independent Brewing Company at 6:50. Those details gave detectives a timeline. They decided to review every camera in the area to see if anyone had followed her. But before they could get far, a new piece of evidence surfaced that changed everything. The DNA wasn't a match in Cadiz, but it was a match to another crime in another state. The DNA matched a home invasion in Los Angeles just 2 months earlier. In that case, a man had broken into a home belonged to with a woman and her 9-year-old daughter, stealing valuables before fleeing. What he didn't realize was that he left his hat behind and walked straight out the front door into the view of a surveillance camera. Detectives replayed that footage hundreds of times. In the end, they concluded the suspect had likely entered the United States illegally. He appeared to be a Hispanic male in his 20s. That made tracking him down nearly impossible. The video was released to the public, hoping someone might recognize him.
Unfortunately, that suspect has not been positively identified, but he did leave behind his DNA. Based on the DNA evidence, we consider the individual in the video we obtained from the Los Angeles Police Department and that we are about to show you on our TV screens to be the person that murdered Rachel Morin on August 5th. So we're now going to show the video. And just so everyone's aware, this video, after this press conference, this video will be posted on our social media.
But almost immediately, investigators were flooded with accusations against the victims of the burglary themselves. Viewers pointed out that in the footage, a hand could be seen opening the door for the suspect. Rumors spread fast that someone inside had helped him. The police had to address the chaos head-on. They held a press conference explaining that this detail hadn't been overlooked. The hand seen in the video belonged to the terrified homeowner herself. She had opened the door to let the man leave safely after he threatened her and her daughter. She had done it in fear, hoping he would just take what he wanted and go. In addition to that, the FBI joined the case, focusing its efforts on matching the DNA with the man seen in the surveillance footage. Working alongside the team at a company called Orem Investigators, used advanced forensic genetic sequencing to build a detailed genetic profile of the unknown suspect. As the calendar turned to 2024, 6 months after Rachel's murder, things finally began to move. In February, detectives released something new: a composite sketch of the suspect along with a public reward. The reward started at $10,000. Then a local law firm doubled it. Soon after, an anonymous donor from Bel Air raised it again to $30,000. Finally, it climbed to $35,000 thanks to Kendall Ray and Josh Thomas from the Mile Higher podcast. Despite all that, no real leads emerged. The public kept searching for the killer, but behind the scenes, FBI agents were working on something completely different. They had obtained a court order to use a technique known as forensic genetic genealogy. That meant instead of looking for a perfect DNA match, they would search for partial matches across multiple databases without needing the consent of the people whose data was being analyzed. The court allowed this because the case involved a high-risk violent offender, and the FBI already had evidence suggesting the same man might be linked to another murder within the United States, in addition to the Los Angeles home invasion and Rachel's killing. Then on June 14, 2024, in the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, a video was released that changed everything.
No. Nombre.
An arrest 10 months in the making, and tonight, for the first time, we are getting a closer look at the moments police more than halfway across the country arrested the man accused of killing Rachel Morin in Harford County. Welcome to the news at 11, everyone. I'm Rick Ritter. It is the video everyone is talking about tonight as the murder of Rachel Morin a year ago captivated the nation. And today, WJZ obtained the body camera footage when police found her alleged killer more than 1,200 miles away in Oklahoma. WJZ live at 11 o'clock tonight. Our Kelsey Kushner watched this footage for us and takes us through it now. Kelsey, good evening.
Rick, good evening to you. Well, Tulsa police say that they received a tip that Victor Martinez Hernandez was in the Tulsa area, and one police officer was seen on that body cam footage saying that she just had a feeling that she knew where he would be. Sure enough, he was inside a bar, sitting at the bar. Police then took him outside. He tried to deny who he was, but officers saw right through it. The video starts off inside a bar late Friday night in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa police and FBI agents approach Victor Hernandez Martinez as he's sitting at the bar and ask him to come outside. Officers then ask Hernandez for ID. Any ID? No. But he tells the officer he doesn't have any and gives a fake name. Moments later, Hernandez is placed in handcuffs after police uncover his real identity.
Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez, correct? Yeah.
Hernandez is then placed in the back of the cop car. Hernandez is accused of raping and killing 37-year-old mother of 5, Rachel Morin, while she was walking along the Ma and Pa Trail in Bel Air 1 year ago. A brutal and violent murder that shook Harford County to its core. Using DNA testing and surveillance video of Hernandez breaking into a home and assaulting a 9-year-old girl in Los Angeles months before, police were able to pin Hernandez as the prime suspect. After 10 months on the run, he was finally caught in Tulsa.
His name is Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez. The details about his life before arriving in the United States are scarce, but what is known is deeply disturbing. Victor crossed into the U.S. in February 2023, just 1 month after a warrant had been issued for his arrest in El Salvador for the murder of a young woman. It turned out that Victor had been living with his family in Maryland until December 2023, about 4 months after Rachel's death. Then in early May 2024, he walked out of the family home and never came back. When investigators dug deeper, they discovered that Victor had connections across Washington, D.C., Virginia, and Maryland. He wasn't wandering aimlessly. He was moving with purpose, slipping through gang-heavy neighborhoods and staying with people linked to criminal networks. His life among gangs wasn't just dangerous, it was soaked in violence. And if there were any doubts left about the kind of man Victor really was, they vanished when police opened his phone. Inside, they found dozens of photos of Rachel Morin, alongside deeply disturbing content. The images painted a terrifying picture of a man who not only committed crimes, but seemed proud of them, keeping twisted trophies of his victims in the form of pictures. Thanks to his own arrogance and the evidence he saved himself, it became nearly impossible for him to deny his guilt. For the community, this announcement was huge. After 10 long months, they finally had a face and a name for the monster. In a symbolic gesture, police placed banners throughout the park announcing Victor's arrest. It wasn't just a public statement, it was a message to everyone that justice had finally caught up. After his capture, Victor was officially charged with 2 counts of murder and 1 count of sexual assault, spanning 3 different crime scenes. Now he would face the full weight of the law. If convicted under Maryland law, he would face the maximum penalty possible. Since the death penalty had long been abolished in the state that meant life in prison without the possibility of parole. Despite the mountain of evidence stacked against him, Victor continued to claim innocence. He refused to speak to investigators, and when he appeared in court, he entered a plea of not guilty. For nearly a year, both sides worked to build their cases. Finally, on April 1st, 2025, jury selection began for the trial everyone had been waiting for. He was accused of the brutal murder of Rachel Morin, along with other charges related to an earlier assault and killing. Opening statements began on April 4th, and from that point, the courtroom was filled with emotion. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, including crime scene photos, forensic reports, and chilling details of the brutality Rachel endured at his hands. The atmosphere was heavy with grief. Rachel's family and loved ones sat just a few feet away from Victor. On the 9th day of the trial, all eyes turned to him as he was given a chance to speak, to explain, to deny, or to ask for mercy. But he said nothing. He refused to testify, choosing instead to remain silent. And in that silence, he said more than words ever could. Watching the proceedings, it became clear even his defense team knew the fight was lost. Their entire case rested on a single witness, a forensic expert who challenged the methods used to extract data from Victor's phone and his search history. Her testimony lasted barely 10 minutes compared to 9 full days of the prosecution's relentless evidence. When the trial ended, the jury was sent to deliberate Victor's fate. It took them just 46 minutes to reach a verdict.
In just a couple of hours, the undocumented immigrant found guilty of killing Maryland mother Rachel Morin back in 2023 will be sentenced. Victor Martinez Hernandez was found guilty of raping and murdering Morin. who had just gone out for a jog but never returned back home. Martinez Hernandez, originally from El Salvador, was in the country illegally. News Nation's Marcus Espinosa joins us live in Maryland outside the Harford County Circuit Courthouse with what we're expecting today. Marcus, get us up to speed on what's going to happen in court.
Marky, good morning. Yeah, definitely a solemn day here today as family members will be here and they are seeking justice today for the end of this chapter as they have been through much since the death of Rachel Morin, 2 years to the month here since she was killed. And so now that sentencing hearing today at 9:30 is expected. And then also the family is also expected to give statements, but a little bit of background as far as how we got here and why this is such a big and important day and a solemn day for the family. They have been through much since this entire thing took place. So they are trying their best to get through this. This is probably one of the hardest chapters here. But again, much to get through here. The man convicted in her murder is 24-year-old Victor Martinez Hernandez. As you mentioned, they're an undocumented immigrant from El Salvador. He was found guilty in April for the brutal beating, rape, and murder of the 37-year-old mother. Rachel had gone for a walk or a run on Maryland's Ma and Pa Trail, a favorite of hers, back on August 3rd, 2023. When she didn't return home, her boyfriend, Richard Tobin, filed a missing persons report. Morin's body was found the next day in a drainage tunnel. For nearly 10 months, not a single arrest was made until they break in the case after DNA evidence from a national database linked Rachel's murder to a home invasion and assault of a young woman in L.A. Martinez Hernandez was also wanted for a murder of another woman in his home country of El Salvador. He entered the United States illegally in 2023.
No one was surprised when Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez was found guilty on all charges. He will spend the rest of his life rotting behind bars. Starting in November 2023, AI-powered cameras were installed along the Ma and Pa Trail. This decision was a direct result of Rachel's case made to protect others in the very place where she lost her life. The system is extensive with more than 100 high-definition cameras covering 26 major zones along the trail. But these aren't ordinary security cameras. The technology can detect if someone is experiencing a medical emergency, being attacked, or if a firearm appears in view. When that happens, it sends an instant alert to emergency responders in real time. In other words, help can begin before anyone even has the chance to call for it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime documentaries. See you in the next video.